Yes, Chairperson, with your leave, might I be permitted to call Mr. Roshan Jainath as our last witness for the day?
Thank you very much. Mr. Jainath, good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you.
Are you willing to take the oath, or do you want to affirm the truth of your evidence?
No, I have no problem swearing an oath.
Do you regard the oath as binding on your conscience?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Do you swear that your evidence will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please lift your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you very much. Over to you, evidence leading team.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Jainath, where do you reside?
I live in Raysthorpe, Ward 30 in Pietermaritzburg. It's the area in which Khan Road corner is based.
And for how long have you been residing in Raysthorpe?
All my life,
All your life, meaning what?
54 years.
For 54 years. And then, who do you stay with at home?
Sorry,
Who do you stay with at home?
I live with my wife.
Only your wife?
Correct.
Any other person?
No.
Thank you. Okay. And what work do you do?
I'm a businessman. I own a corrugated manufacturing company making boxes. I used to be the MD of Nampak.
Employing how many people, more or less?
34 people.
Are your employees, where do most of your employees reside?
Some of them from Ward 30 and some of them from Edendale.
Okay. Anybody residing at the informal settlement in question?
Not this particular one, but in Parkview, which is about 1.2 kilometers away from Khan Road.
Now, do you know of any violent conflict between the persons staying in the formal and informal settlements?
You might have heard a lot of skepticism about the police.
About the what?
The police.
What is that?
Mountain Rise Police.
Oh, the police.
The police, yes.
Yes, yes.
A year before the July unrest, in the community of Parkview, which is about 1.2 kilometers away from Khan Road corner, there was a young man, Stenzo Dlamini, who was shot by a reservist and by a community member. He was accused of stealing electricity, and he was killed. Now, as a community and as a grouping of activists, we felt very strongly that somebody needed to be called to book. We went to the police station, we met with the station commander, and we had all sorts of deliberations where they promised us they were going to follow up. Till today, no one has been arrested for the murder of Stenzo Dlamini.
And you say this occurred a year before the unrest?
Correct.
And did you report this to the police?
Yes. We even met with the station commander.
Who's the station commander?
Boxer Pillay.
Have you reported the same inaction to IPID?
No, we didn't do that. But there was a presentation done to us in which they say that they couldn't find compelling evidence. But I recall on the day of that murder, the following morning, I told them who the person is. And I said to them, test the hand for residue. They failed to do that. So after that, there was no evidence. And the guy that was handling the case, in my view, worked quite hard in trying to resolve it, but there was no evidence after that. Most of the people that lived on that road that saw this happening were too afraid to to testify.
Do you have any confidence in police in Raystop?
Well, at the stage when Stenzo was killed, I didn't. But I will discuss what had happened after the Khan Road incidents.
Okay. Okay. And having detailed this Stenzo's killing a year before the unrest and the fact that no one has been arrested, you make mention of activists. Who are you specifically referring to?
Well, I've been a community activist for many years, and I've worked closely with the African National Congress for various years. And some of the activists like Mam Ntombi and people from the informal settlements, we've worked together not from a perspective of the politics of power, but from a perspective of trying to improve the lives of poor people.
Okay. And do you know of any racial tensions between the formal and informal communities in that area?
The Raystop area is the area in which Chota Matala was born and did his politics. It's the area of which A.S. Chetty was born. It's an area known for progressive people that have been involved largely in the struggle against apartheid. So, if I might add perspective to this, currently the only organized formation in our community is the neighborhood watches. And I believe that in the neighborhood watches, there are a criminal element. And I do not believe that it is reflective of the entire community.
Please expand on what you're saying, that within the community, do you say watches?
Sorry?
Neighborhood watches.
Yeah, neighborhood watches.
You say there are criminal elements.
Yes, in my view.
Please explain that to the panel.
Well, for one thing, people that were involved in the killing of Stenzo Dlamini were from this neighborhood watch. People that were involved in the killings in Khan Road or in the protests outside Khan Road when the violence happened, many of them came from the neighborhood watches. And obviously there were community members supporting them at that point.
Have you reported this to the police?
Yes. In fact, after the violence at Khan Road, in Pietermaritzburg, the ANC has an RTT, a regional task team. So one of the RTT members, Mkolisi Mkizi, myself, and the secretary of SANCO visited the station commander. And we had a very forceful meeting. In fact, we demanded that the case be moved from Mountain Rise and that it would be moved to a task team.
Now, but please tell the panel about the social cohesion initiatives involving formal and informal settlements.
Okay. Two things happened. We, together with the RTT, we formed a Peace and Development Forum.
Peace and Development Forum. Okay.
I'm the convener of the Peace and Development Forum. And we decided to look into the issues around peace. And we came to a conclusion that you cannot have peace without development. And we felt strongly that we should rebuild these houses. But not only the houses, of the 62 houses that have been burnt, we've already replaced 45 houses made of wood and iron. But the bulk of it is like a Wendy house. But it is very dignified, it is very well built, and this money was raised from the community, from the church organizations, from the Hindu organizations, and from community members. We've raised about 700,000 to date, and we've done a lot to rebuild this community. But our plans don't stop there. The plan is also to purchase smart toilets that don't require a sewer system, and we in the process of procuring 15 of this for this community. You cannot have peace between two communities if the area suddenly takes on the look and the smell of an informal settlement. It affects people's houses, their values of the house, and so on. So you'd expect some level of conflict between the formal and informal communities. But never before had that manifested itself in the racial tensions that happened after the July unrest.
So
the other thing that we did is that we got the services of Dr. Mark Manley, who is a well-known, he's a well-known peace negotiator. And we had a dialogue between the formal and the informal communities. And this dialogue is ongoing because we are trying to find solutions at the root cause. Some of the things that we've learned is that, firstly, a lot of anger is directed at our local municipality. And I think residents are really upset that service delivery is at times non-existent. And the ability of human settlements and the municipality to enhance or to relocate people from the informal settlement also doesn't exist. So there's a deep-seated anger among the formal community, not necessarily against the people at the informal settlement, but against the local municipality and how they've conducted themselves in the last few years.
Now, we'll come to that aspect in a second, but I just want you to tell the panel if you know whether children from the formal and informal communities attend the same school.
Yes. The students from the informal settlement go mainly to Orient Heights Primary School, which is a former Indian school. But now it's totally integrated. And some of them go, I think one or two go to Allendale. And there's some of them that go to Green Hill School, all former Indian schools.
Yes. Now let's get to this aspect. You say there is no peace without development, and you have made reference to your initiative and together with other activists and business persons and the Hindu communities regarding the building of houses. Which houses are you talking about?
Well, you heard testimony about the fire
Yes.
that burned about, and I think the last speaker said 65 houses.
Correct.
That were burnt. Now, on my count, it was 62, so he was not far off. We've rebuilt 45 of the 62 houses. There are 120 homes in this informal settlement, and our plan is to replace all so that it can take on the uniformity of a viable living area.
And you say the money to build those houses were raised from the very same community, Raystop community?
Yes, largely so, but through their organizations. For example, PMB for Jesus is based in Raystop, and the South African Hindu Mahasabha, although their head office is here in Durban, but their branch in Maritzburg is also in Raystop.
Any other organizations that will offer assistance?
Yes, aside from the individuals, there are too many to name, but there's the biodiversity, I'm forgetting the exact name, but it's a Johannesburg-based organization that looks at biodiversity, and they donated about 90,000 rand to us.
Okay. Now, 12 July 2021, can you please describe to the panel, in your view, in your words, what transpired?
Well, mid-morning on that day, I live about 2 kilometers away, but right on the hill. And I could see the smoke.
2 kilometers away from
the informal settlement.
Okay.
And I could see the smoke. But I didn't, for 1 second, believe it was the informal settlement. We were watching on TV places being burnt, and I thought it was a building. I got a frantic call from Mama Ntombi, who was basically hysterical. And said,
Who's Mama Ntombi?
Mama Ntombi is one of the senior activists in our area.
Okay.
And she told me that the informal settlement was set alight. We both went to the informal settlement. But by the time we got there, all the protagonists, people involved in the violence on that day were no longer there. All we saw was this state of hopelessness and helplessness, this houses that were burnt, the smoke in the air, the look of absolute fear on children's faces. We saw a lady that was lying on the ground dead, who was shot, we are told, by an Indian guy. We also saw the full effect of how people had retreated. Some of them had gone to their homes, some of them moved to the extreme section of the camp. But for a few days.
What do you mean by camp?
The informal settlement.
Okay.
For some reason, most people refer to it as the camp. But the informal settlement, they moved to the extreme section of it. This is what I'm aware of, because obviously I was not there during the violence, and I will share some insights that I have from the police and some of the consequences of our intervention with the police just now. But for now, I just want to say that some of them slept on the floor for up to 6 to 7 days. On the day that we met with Mom and Tombi and myself on the 12th, I found every person, the mayor, I found the RTT chairperson, I found everyone seeking for help to get the body moved, at least to a mortuary or to the hospital.
Whose body are you talking about?
This was a lady that was shot. It was Spashle, just to differentiate, was shot in the early hours of the morning.
Okay.
Right? And then mid-morning, when they burnt the camp, apparently they went to one of the ladies and shot her at close range. So her body was lying on the floor for at least 6-7 hours before the police removed it. But we didn't get any assistance from anyone, from any of the political parties. It was a community left to be on their own. For a few days, among the community, we raised money to buy food, because this community lost everything. When they burnt those houses, the meager possessions, their clothes or whatever food they had was burnt. They were left with nothing. The only thing they were left with was what they were wearing.
Do you know, Chair, might we take a 5 minutes break for Mr. Jainath to compose himself? You'll be okay? We do understand that this is emotionally wrenching, and we do appreciate that you came forward to be of assistance to the Commission. And we also appreciative of the fact that all the persons who have testified today, they heap praises on you for your efforts, they singled you out as a person who understood their plight. We do know it's quite, it's a second trauma on your part, and we do sympathize with you on that score. Do you know Ms. Zamanguse Tobani, Mr. Tobani Nguse, and Mr. Lwandile Kumete and Mr. Sipose Tumsia?
Yes.
How do you know them?
Well, I know them from the work that we've been doing in the last 5 months, but some of them, I actually know them for a few years in terms of the activist work we've been doing. But the younger guys I've met during this period, the last few months.
There is a person they make reference to as Mkhulu there. Do you know this person?
Mkhulu?
Yes, an elderly person.
The only Mkhulu that I'm aware of is one of the veteran politicians in our area, it's Mr. Yusuf Bamji. But he assisted in the Peace and Development Forum. I'm not sure if they were making reference to him or to somebody else from the community that was involved in the violence. So unless it is Mr. Yusuf Bamji, then I don't think I know who they're referring to as Mkhulu.
Is this Yusuf Bamji, the former mayor, the former district, mayor of the
Correct.
district
Correct.
of Umgungundlovu?
Correct.
Okay. Now, yes, this body of this lady who lied in state for 7 hours or so, you said it was removed by the police.
Eventually, yes.
Have you established the identity of this deceased?
She was from Lesotho, and she was the girlfriend of one of the residents at Khan Road.
Yes.
So because she was not a resident there, a lot of focus has not been on her. But she is one of the human beings that were killed on that day.
So you said the ladies comes from Lesotho. Do you know if she has been repatriated back to
Yes.
Lesotho?
We also arranged money and finances for that.
Okay. What do you mean when we? By we, what do you mean?
The Peace and Development Forum.
Peace and Development Forum.
Even with Spashle's funeral, the Peace and Development Forum raised the money for it.
Yes. To your knowledge, how many people lost their life during that period?
Well, if we're looking specifically at Khan Road Corner, there were 2 people and one person was badly injured and still till today is in hospital.
Do you know do you know of their identities?
The identity?
Their names?
I don't know the lady. I knew the name of the lady, but I can't remember it offhand now. But Spashle I know, Nguse. And then the lady who passed away, I can't remember her name now. And even the lady that's injured, I don't know her name right now.
Okay. Do you know about the death of Sibahle Nguse?
Yes.
How do you? Please share with the chairperson, the panel, what transpired.
Okay. From the information that was given to the Peace and Development Forum, even during the peace dialogue, just bear in mind that I wasn't there during the violence itself. So I'm sharing with you the information that we received, was that in this early hours of the morning, there were security companies that were present, of which you might have heard RZS and MI7. And at that point, there was some indiscriminate shooting into the informal settlement. And at that point, the young Spashte was actually shot. And so the person who shot him has been arrested. In fact, there's four people that have been arrested. But this happened largely because there was an outcry against how Mountain Rise conducted itself. It would seem that Mountain Rise is a predominantly Indian or Indian-controlled police station. It would seem that a lot of people that are in the neighborhood watches are very close to them. Some of them are reservists. And obviously, in terms of the security cluster, one would find security companies working with them as well. It was found that the person who shot Spashle, or the person who's charged and allegedly charged for the murder of Spashle, is from RZS, is one of the guards from there.
You make mention about the Raystop police station.
The Mountain Rise police station.
Oh, how many police stations do you have there?
It's actually one.
It's actually
Raystop, Mountain Rise, Northdale is commonly referred to as the northern areas.
Yes.
And the northern areas have one police station, which is the Mountain Rise police station.
Yes.
And during this last investigations, when the 4 people were arrested, the relationship was very tense initially, but we've developed a very good relationship with people like Colonel Gabashe and others that have taken this investigation seriously, even with the intervention of the Department of Justice. And currently, as it stands, I do believe that I can't exonerate them and say that this is a rehabilitated police station, but there are some good people there that are really assisting in the investigations.
Now, evidence has been shared with the commission here that after the shooting of Sibahle and the what ensued on 12th July, nothing happened up until there was an announcement of Mr. Mantashe's visit. Do you know of that?
Yes, I think two things happened. Firstly, this community was ignored by the police and by the politicians as well. What happened was there was a video showing the burning of the informal settlement and showing Indian people clapping whilst it burned. And that video went viral. So obviously people, even at the NEC of the ANC, saw this video. And they phoned the provincial secretary. And they said, what is happening? Then that's when the politicians really got involved. They got involved because this video went viral. If this video didn't go viral, we probably wouldn't have got the attention. So,
do you have this video?
Yes, I do. Or even if it's not on my phone now, I have access to it. So I'll be able to share it.
Would you mind to share it with the commission?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind.
You don't mind?
I said yes.
Okay. Now, you say you believe that if this video didn't go viral, this community would have remained ignored.
That's my view.
Well, why do you say that?
I say that because the 6 days was telling. They lived on the ground. There was some plan eventually to rehouse them in one of the community halls. But the community were very suspicious because they felt they will take the land and they won't allow them back. So they stayed put. And they received the tacit support of the Peace and Development Forum because we actually understood where they were coming from. So we had arranged money as quickly as we could, and we started rebuilding.
You earlier made reference to community's anger towards the municipality.
Yes.
Which municipality are you talking about? Because there's a
Msunduzi.
local and there's district.
The local, Msunduzi.
It's Msunduzi. What is the, for instance, Ms. Zamangusa says she's been living in that area, Khan Road corner, since 2003. She says there is no access to electricity or water, but however, there is illegal connections of electricity. The municipality doesn't seem to be doing anything about their plight.
Yes. I think there is a communal tap that everyone uses.
Yes.
Right. And just after the violence, the mayor had announced that they had budgeted so many million rand to do the connections of electricity. Because what normally happens when there's illegal connections, often the transformers overload. And when the transformers overload, the communities, the formal community is left without lights. And in terms of the response time, when those fuses blow, the response time from the municipality can be anything from 3 hours to a day. So obviously there's a lot of anger at the informal settlement when those lights go out. And in my view, to put a bigger transformer wouldn't be such a big challenge. And you could resolve that issue easily. But as we speak today, that has not been resolved.
Now, communal tap, it caters, or it's meant to cater for how many people?
If there's 130 people living in this community, it's catering for all of them.
What's your estimate of the people living in that community?
You see, it's difficult to say because we're building 120 homes.
Yes.
Some of the people after this violence, return to their homes.
Yes.
And they will return, we are told. So we have a number and a list. And according to our numbers, it would seem there's about 150 people. So a lot of people are living there as single people. So they have a room and a small kitchen that we've developed. Most of the 45 homes are single room homes. And some are 2-bedroom and some are 3-bedroom for the bigger families. But I would estimate between 130 to 150 people. And that's an estimate.
As you and your organization are building these houses, any assistance from any organs of state in the province or nationally?
Yes, they offered us some blankets.
Blankets?
Yes.
When?
When this happened, about a week later, the disaster management brought some blankets and some mattresses, which they gave the community.
Is that all?
That's all.
So in the building of the material for building of the houses?
Nothing. There's a bylaw that says if you going to buy some, if the human settlements had to give us materials, it had to go through some tender process, and it was going to take a few months. These people were sleeping in the ground. So there was a plan or some indication that they wanted to assist, but their process was going to take too long. So we bypassed that and we raised the money to build homes. In any case, if you build a full tin house, corrugated iron house, try standing inside that home midday in summer. It's not possible. I don't know how we can even imagine that people should live under those conditions. The thing with wood, and although some people have expressed concern over wood, but I mean the fire in July showed that anything can burn. But it's warm during winter and it's cool during summer. But for the kitchen itself, it's made out of corrugated iron. So it's a, I can share the pictures of this with the commission when I give you the video.
Okay. I'm going to hand over to my colleagues, Chairperson.
Other evidence leaders?
Yes, no, thank you very much, Chair. Just perhaps one or two things to raise. Thank you very much, Mr. Jainath, for the evidence that you've given thus far, and I think you have been able to paint a picture for the Commission in respect of your role and that of your Peace and Development Committee, or Forum rather. You mentioned something about social cohesion, or something about social cohesion was mentioned, or reference was made to social cohesion. And you did say that there's also ongoing work that is underway.
Yes.
Could you just maybe just enlighten us or the Commission
Okay.
and the panel a little bit more about what sort of plans and work that you envisage undertaking?
Okay, so what we've done is, with the Peace and Development Forum, we've identified two key areas. One is development and one is peace facilitation. So the first phase with Dr. Mandy, we did it as a Peace and Development Forum. Then Community Safety and Liaison joined us, and they intervened and it's important because they have oversight over the police, and they have an arrangement with IPED. So they are involved in this process. So in many ways, I think on the 22nd, I can't remember the exact date, but is the feedback from the first meeting.
Okay.
But now it's going to be done under the auspices of the Safety and Liaison Department.
And that department you're referring to is the KZN Department of
KZN,
Community
yes.
Safety and Liaison.
Correct, and a lot of support from both them and the Department of Justice. In terms of the facilitation, I must say I have been critical of the municipality, but the assistance we got from both these departments have been very good.
Okay, and just for clarity also, in terms of the Department of, the KZN Department of Community Safety and Liaison, they are assisting with which part of the two phases? Because you mentioned
So
development and peace.
they're going to be taking over, or assisting rather, on the peace facilitation.
Okay, and then just to clarify also, just so that the panel is much clearer, in terms of the role of the Department of Justice, I believe it's both national and provincial.
Correct. With regards to the Department of Justice, firstly, they also had a sort of facilitation at Ascot Inn. So it was a little bit of the repetition of what we did, but it was also very good. Unfortunately, it was during the day, so quite a few of the formal community members didn't attend. But it was great insights on the Constitution and on the rights of the informal settlement residents, many of whom didn't know their rights. So I thought that was very useful. And the only thing that didn't happen is they promised two things, and it hasn't happened as yet, but I'm sure they're going to do it. One is a lot of the residents lost their IDs, and they were going to make arrangements with Home Affairs to actually come by and to assist them to get their IDs. And the second thing, they were supposed to arrange counseling. And some of the people have requested the counseling, but we haven't received it as yet.
Okay, just to clarify, the two specific things you've just mentioned now that were promised but have not yet materialized, it's the processing of applications for IDs, for those that lost IDs during the fateful day of the 12th, in terms of the fires, and then secondly, it's the, sorry, I just missed that other part that you mentioned. It's regarding the second part, counseling.
Counseling, yes.
Okay, and that's still, because I think we've also heard that some people, most of the people that spoke today did indicate that counseling had not been provided.
Yes.
So that's also been promised, but not yet.
Yeah, but I did receive an email to tell me that they were asking questions and the amount of people and so on. So I do believe that's imminent.
Okay. All right. No, thank you very much. Maybe my last question to you, Mr. Jainath, is you mentioned earlier of the history of the raised-up area and the stalwarts that came from that particular area and the fight, in terms of apartheid, etc. What was the incident of the 12th of July? It's known to have been unprecedented. However, we also would like to know from you, given that you've been in the community for so long, and as you've mentioned, you're a business person, you've worked quite a lot within the community, and you work a lot with other organizations as well. Have you heard of any incidents or incidents that are somewhat maybe even close to what happened in as far as the racial tensions are concerned? Because that has also come through in terms of the racial tensions and the like.
Well, historically, I mean, there was the 1948 riots and then the Nanda violence that affected Indians in particular. And during the peace dialogue, what came across was the fear of the Indian community. And by the way, I did invite a lot of them, and unfortunately, they didn't respond to the invite.
And that is, sorry, just to pause a little bit there, when you say you invited a lot of them, who are you referring to?
I was inviting people from the formal community.
And the formal community would be the other parts of the raised-up Northdale area?
Correct.
Okay.
And I invited them to come for today's hearing. But again, a lot of people are working and they were unable to make it.
Okay, and in terms of the peace dialogues, the invitations were also, in your view, not honored because of?
No. For the peace dialogue, for the one that was held with the Department of Justice, they were working as well. But when the Peace and Development had its first one, it was a Saturday. And we had a very good turnout. We had representatives from civil society, we had representatives from religious organizations, we had the Gandhi Committee. We invited the political parties as well. But aside from the ANC, no one else attended.
Okay, and in your estimation and view, as I conclude, with all of the efforts that your Peace and Development Forum and other formations and other organizations and individuals that you say have supported, whether it's monetary support and other support, and also the initiatives that have been attended by various people, what is your impression in as far as going forward between the formal community and the Khan Road settlement, if we may call it that?
I think firstly, that let me say, the people involved in violence and vigilantism is a very small grouping of people. However, with social media and the level and sometimes the extent of racism that exists for whatever reason on social media, it's actually scary. If you read the community chats, I mean, I read the one chat, there was apparently a Indian girl from school that was robbed outside the informal settlement, and some people took very strong exception to the informal settlement being there. And unfortunately, some people believe that we're still living in an era where there's a Group Areas Act. And I read the one message, and it says, whoever burnt the camp didn't do a good job. And it's the kind of thing that plays out in social media. Having said that, I've received those people, no one responds in the social media chat because the people that puts forward its narrative, they are bullies. But I must have received between 70 to 100 messages of support that what we are doing is correct, but it was personally.
Okay, and those messages were personal and not necessarily on the social media that you made reference to?
They're afraid to go against the predominant view of the people that are saying the informal settlement must be moved. So yes, and if I could just also say that when Gwede Mantashe came, he made a commitment to the community that within 2 years they will be rehoused. So what we have said is we put in units that are dismantleable, so we can use it in another informal settlement. And for us, I would like to share this, if you don't mind. It's not only about building the homes and the toilets. We've now applied through the Solidarity Fund for funds to put up a hydroponic plant so that people can be commercially active as well. Because having a house doesn't feed people. The helplessness and some of the levels of poverty is extreme. And I feel that that particular area on which the informal settlement is my old school called Pietermaritzburg School. And it was a community-based school. It was a school built by the community. I think in 1984 it became a full state school when the House of Delegates was formed. But just prior to that, it was a state-aided school. So that raised up area has a legacy of community activism where people even built their own school. And many top professionals have come through the school. And it is symbolic that we will continue that type of work where it's a community-based effort. And it's a coincidence, I think, when I saw the campaign slogan of the ANC, building communities together. And I thought that was interesting because we had started that before the campaign. And I do believe that the only way to overcome this level of racism and this anger that exists is not to depend only on the municipality, but to take some of the development initiatives into our own hands. We found a lot of organizations like Solidarity Fund who are actually very interested in assisting in efforts like this. They even asked us to find land which they will buy so that the municipality or human settlements can build on. So we're now thinking beyond Khan Road. We are looking at informal settlements in the northern areas as a start. Nobody should live the way they are living. No one.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jainath. I've got no further.
Just a follow-up before we hand over to the chairperson. Mr. Jainath, you said Mr. Mantashe made a commitment when he was there, saying that within 2 years, there will be housing in that area.
In that area, yes. And that's a key point that you raise. You know, urbanization is a worldwide trend. It's just in South Africa it gets racialized the way it does. Yeah. But the reason people stay is they have access to better schools and they have jobs. They get jobs in this area. If you stay in Edendale and you get a job in Raystop, the meager salaries that they get will get eaten up in the busway. So obviously it doesn't make sense. There has to be a new type of thinking and a new type of development. But you can't take people and put them far away from the workplace. That in itself is a humanitarian crisis.
As Mr. Mantashe, according to you, as he made that commitment, was the mayor of Msunduzi present?
No, he had attended the first inaugural meeting of the Peace and Development Forum where he made indications of support.
Yes.
But the ANC leadership was there, including the provincial secretary and the RTT of the ANC in Pietermaritzburg. Well, it's the Moses Mabhida region.
Now let's focus on the Mr. Mantashe's visit. When he made the commitment, was the mayor of Msunduzi present at the time?
To my recollection, no.
He was not
there.
present.
No.
Was the mayor of the district Umgungundlo municipality district municipality present?
No.
Now, this is a municipal area,
Yes.
and do you know in what capacity was Mr. Mantashe visiting the area?
Well, he came in the capacity as the chairperson of the ANC. And he also had a community dialogue with the formal and informal communities. And he was very gracious in accepting different views. Obviously, no one in the right mind was going to accept that even if the looting is absolutely wrong, there's a degree of punishment. If somebody was found to be doing that, they would be arrested. They won't be killed. And that was not tolerated at any stage. But he was also understanding about the needs of the formal community and how they feel marginalized and how they feel ignored. And I think a lot of points that the formal community raised, in my view, was very valid.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, members of the panel. Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. Just two questions, Ms. Roshan. The neighborhood watches are falling under the MEC for community safety, and they supposed to be regulated and with a certain code of conduct. And clearly, what we've seen or what we've heard from this community in question is the way they behaved, and the way they behaved like Rambos.
Yes.
And armed and
Correct.
on the back of bakkies, and also, and this is my second issue, is then racially profiling people.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the first question they will ask, if they find you outside the area, what are you doing here? And in South Africa, we fought for a country where everybody can walk wherever they can walk. So obviously, we have to look at it, but in your Peace and Development Forum, you should, and engaging the government, the provincial government, MEC of Safety and Security, do you think there's a way that these neighborhood watches can fulfill and honor that code of conduct and fulfill the regulations, and that racial profiling should be one of the things they should desist from doing?
Yes.
Because that contributes, that works against the social cohesion that
Correct.
you're trying to do. Thanks.
Correct. What one of the resolutions of the peace dialogue is that we need to be organized, all of us, including the formal community. So they're in the process of setting up a ratepayers association. So the plan is for these neighborhood watches to fall under the ratepayers association. And the ratepayers association will include members from both communities so that we can police ourselves and make sure that these issues don't happen. But there's an interesting thought and observation. Now, if you look at this Raystop area, again, about a kilometer away in the Musa Road area, you have a lot of black African professionals that live there, teachers and nurses and so on. Now, when this violence happened, they were actually, together with the formal community, they were guarding those areas. Sorry, my apology. They were guarding these areas together with hockey sticks and all of that. But there was no racial tension between the middle class. I will say it again. The very poor people that live in informal settlements have been criminalized a long time ago, and our constitution does not apply to them. So this issue is, and I would go as far as to say if there were very, very poor Indians staying in that same area of that informal settlement, and if there were rich Africans staying around, they will treat those poor Indians with the same contempt. But the poor are criminalized. And that's what we need to work on. Government has to come to the party with development because the community cannot do this alone. But they got to take their commitments that they make in elections seriously.
Thank you, Commissioner Nissen. Yeah, I think I just have two questions. We had someone saying earlier when I asked how many from the Indian community were involved, and I guess it was an estimate under those chaotic circumstances and so on, but I mean we had a number of, there were 300 on the one hand. On the other hand, we also had the version that said, you know, that actually sort of equated the security companies and so on to the Indian community, that Indians were part of the security company. You, and I suppose it would only be an impression because you weren't there when the violence actually took place, but what is your impression as to who exactly was involved in this violence that...
It's my view that and by the way, it was petrol bombs that were thrown into the camp, into the informal settlement. One of the people that was arrested, a resident, his hands are burnt because something happened and he hurt himself. So it was the use of petrol bombs that set that alight. I think the neighborhood watchers, the police, and the security companies have a close bond, and they work together. And I've said that they are the only organized people. And if you look at it from, Chris, you might resonate with this. You get progressive people and you get reactionary people. Our community is rooted and was being controlled. Even that effort to protect the community was being headed by reactionary people. People that didn't really want to see peace and cohesiveness. People that were ready to fight, to defend whatever they felt was theirs. Now I'm saying the one way to defend your house is to take up whatever you can get and try and defend your house. Or you can take a broader view and say, I'm protecting and I'm going to defend my community. So I'm saying that element, and I agree with all of them, because it might sound like a contradiction, but it isn't. Because there are neighborhood watchers that will seem like residents, then there's the police, and there's a security company. That's a social compact, I would say. And on that particular day, because people were defending, like, for example, they were having a meeting in Project Ground regarding where they were going to patrol that evening. And they heard there was a problem in Khan Road, and all of them came down. So it doesn't mean that they were all involved in the actual violence. But in my view, and based on the police investigations and the 4 people that have been arrested, it's not a big mass of people that were looking for a war. Mm-hmm. And from what I can also, what I've seen is that these are people that are involved normally in so-called security cluster that have been involved in this.
And in terms of the role of the police, you know, when the violence was taking place and so on, you apparently also have contact with the commander now of the police station and so on. You don't have any information that could verify maybe what, you know, the police's involvement and what role they played.
For me,
let's say from the evening of the 11th going on to the 12th.
Yeah. For me, the fact that you come to a site where people have died 7 days later, it tells you its own story. But again, from reports and eyewitness from credible people, right? And remember, what was happening inside the informal settlement, there was a whole lot of smoke and stuff. It would have been very difficult to ask the residents to give you a correct analysis of what happened outside. I'm talking about credible people that were outside. I mean, police were there when that happened. So I can't prove it. I don't have and I'm just sharing with you what I've heard from credible people. Police were there. And it is my view that rogue element in the police, and we can't in fairness, paint all the police, even from Mountain Rise, with the same brush. I don't think that would be fair. Like the support we've got from Colonel Gabashe and others have been very, very good. But there is that rogue element that have been partnering with the neighborhood watchers and with the security companies and creating mayhem. The death that I mentioned earlier on with Stenzo Dlamini has reference to this cluster. And I mean, the person that was accused of doing that was a police reservist.
Okay, thank you very much. And we really also thank you and appreciate the great work that you are doing. Thank you so much for that.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.